Speaking of men, big L for Justin Baldoni. The latest news in the Justin Baldoni versus Blake Lively case is that Justin Baldoni has officially had his $400 million countersuit ended because this was always bullshit. It was always fucking bullshit from the get-go. From the get-go, Blake Lively was sexually harassed alongside other female employees on set of It Ends With Us. And it got to the point that Blake had to call for a meeting with Justin and the other producers and co-owners of Wayfarer, which is the studio that produced It Ends With Us. And then what happened from that is Justin Baldoni essentially freaked out that he was going to take a reputational hit, that people weren't fucking with him already because of what happened on set. So he employed the PR team that pulled Johnny Depp to victory. And he assumed that he could run the playbook back, that he could engage in smearing Blake Lively. And, well, he's learned that he fucking lost. That Blake Lively has too much money, has too many resources, and was able to win these very important legal battles, which included him filing a $400 million defamation countersuit. And that was formally ended by a judge. So District Court Judge Louis Lyman signed a new order stating that Baldoni and his Wayfarer Studios co-plaintiffs had failed to file a further amended complaint after the court dismissed their case back in June. The judge said he'd contacted all parties on October 17th to warn them that he'd be entering a final judgment to conclude the case. According to a document reviewed by People, Lively was the only one to respond, asking the judge to declare the final judgment, but for her request for legal fees to remain active, which the judge agreed to. The U.S. District Court didn't immediately respond when contacted by People for additional information. Baldoni's setback is the latest in the It Ends With Us legal saga, which began in December when Lively sued him for misconduct on the set and a retaliatory smear campaign. And here's the thing. If they had not engaged in this smear campaign against her, which was very effective, it worked. It was very effective. Then Blake Lively would not have sued him, Jamie Heath, and Wayfarer. Because the main reason for the suit was the retaliatory smear campaign as a result of Blake filing a complaint on set, calling for that meeting due to the inappropriate conduct that Jamie Heath and Justin Baldoni were conducting on set. As previously reported by People, Baldoni's $400 million countersuit against Lively, her husband Ryan Reynolds, and their publicists, which alleged extortion and defamation, was previously tossed out by the judge on June 9th, as well as his $250 million defamation lawsuit against the New York Times. He has lost. He's lost. Like, it's so fucking over for him. Lively then shared a post on her Instagram stories in which she opened up about the pain she'd been caused by Baldoni's countersuit. Like so many others, I've felt the pain of a retaliatory lawsuit, including the manufactured shame that tries to break us. While the suit against me was defeated, so many don't have the resources to fight back. The actress added at the time that she was now more resolved than ever to continue to stand for every woman's right to have a voice and protecting themselves, including their safety, their integrity, their dignity, and their story. And that's the truth, is that most women, they don't have the money and the resources that Blake Lively has. And so when they are sexually harassed at work and then subsequently retaliated against, cough, cough, exactly what Andrew Cuomo did. Exactly what Andrew Cuomo did. Which is why if you vote for him, you're a piece of shit. Most women don't have this ability to fight back. And so it's a lose-lose situation for them. With love and gratitude for the many who stood by me, many of you I know, many of you I don't, but I will never stop appreciating or advocating for you, she wrote, sharing a list of organizations for relevant resources and information. Her lawyers also hailed the decision as a total victory and a complete vindication for the actress. In their statement after the dismissal news, Lively's attorneys Esther Hudson and Mike Gottlieb noted, as we have said from day one, this $400 million lawsuit was a sham and the court saw right through it. Meanwhile, Baldoni's lawyer Brian Friedman said in a statement obtained by People on June 10th that Lively and her team's predictable declaration of victory was false. Friedman's statement included at the time Friedman, who has previously sued Justin Baldoni, he was on the opposite side with a situation that involved a disabled writer who Justin Baldoni had stolen a script from. This case is about false accusations of sexual harassment and retaliation and a non-existent smear campaign, which Miss Lively's own team conveniently describes as untraceable because they cannot prove what never happened. Actually, there's plenty of evidence. Pointing to a California law passed in the wake of the Me Too movement, Judge Lyman ruled in June that Lively's sexual harassment allegations were legally protected and couldn't be used as grounds for a defamation claim. So this was a really important law that passed in California and essentially aimed at protecting victims of sexual abuse. So what happens often is that a victim of, say, sexual harassment at work comes forward, makes a complaint, and is crushed by a defamation suit or is threatened by one. So either the person who they have accused, especially when it's in a situation where the accused has a lot more power, a lot more money, they will threaten legal action to silence victims of sexual misconduct. Or if it gets to a point that they actually go to, they go to court, it is very expensive to fight these kinds of legal battles. So they get crushed either way. They'll end up signing, they might end up signing an NDA, which is now not allowed, but this is not in every state, but they sign an NDA, they have to take a deal where essentially they will be compensated for pain and suffering, but they are not allowed to speak on anything. And then, they'll face retaliation. They'll be fired from their jobs. They'll be blacklisted. This is what happened to Harvey Weinstein's victims. It's crazy to me how well the smear campaign worked. For so many months, I saw so much hate towards Blake. It's crazy. It's because it's tried and true. It is a tried and true method of delegitimizing claims that often a woman makes towards against a man. And because of how successful it was in the Depp versus Heard case, we have seen this repeatedly now with these major cases involving celebrities, but also non-celebrities. So furthermore, Baldoni and his fellow plaintiffs associated with production company Wayfarer Studios have not alleged that Reynolds, publicist Leslie Sloan, or the Times would have seriously doubted Lively's initial claims, which doesn't prove they defamed Baldoni, the judge previously wrote. The trial is set for March 2026. What did you say about Justin Baldoni stealing a script? Yeah, so Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, once sued him for stealing a script from a man who had cystic fibrosis. And that was the crazy thing too, is as this case went on, there was more information coming out about Justin Baldoni that pointed to his character and his character being that of a shit fuck. And it still didn't matter. It was still every single thing that came up. Oh, no, none of this is worthy. None of this is noteworthy of pointing to the fact that Justin Baldoni has been problematic. It didn't matter that he has previously been sued by someone whose script he stole who had cystic fibrosis, that he was removed from another production set that Wayfarer was the producing studio on for inappropriate behavior. Like, just none of it matters when the purpose is in the message being woman liar, woman bad, man victim of movement like Me Too, man victim of lying woman, men always victim of lying women. I take your point, but for the record, my timeline was, well, I don't know what, that's a rarity. Things have started to change. I will say things have started to change. I don't think this had the longevity that Depp and Heard had, but absolutely in the beginning, and then the New York Times story came out. In the beginning, there was so much anti-Blake Lively because it was astroturfed, because it was being inorganically pushed on platforms like Reddit. Like, the reason that it was there is because it was an organized smear campaign. It was like, oh, any posts that were anti-Blake Lively were being bot farms were, upvoting those on Reddit, and anything that was pro Blake was being squashed. So this is the kind of thing that we're talking about with these smear campaigns, where it's playing on organic cultural misogyny, but it is still also inorganic because it's utilizing bots and it's utilizing places like Reddit in order to push a narrative. And then what I saw a lot of is the only people who were hardcore covering the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni case were people who either are right-wing commentators like Candace Owens and Brett Cooper, whatever her name is, who shifted to become pop culture news commentators. And one major avenue for them was Lively versus Baldoni. And then also apolitical content creators who were incentivized to push a pro Baldoni perspective. Would you say the same or similar campaign is active in regards to Kaya Gate? Yeah, that was absolutely a manufactured smear campaign that was being pushed, that was being uplifted by major right-wing figures who have a political incentive to deplatform, to destroy the reputation and credentials of Hassan. So 1000%. Remember this lady interviewer? Yes. This woman, Kirsty Fleeja, whatever, she took full fucking advantage. Full advantage. She went from, who the fuck is this woman? Okay, so this clip of her in an interview where Blake seems like a real bitch. And people were like, oh, I feel so sorry for this interviewer. And she went, ooh, I can totally monetize this. And for the last year has been pumping out videos that are anti-Blake Lively. And she's been rewarded with the viewership. If you were to go to YouTube and you put in Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni, same thing when Rachel Zegler was being thrown under the bus for the failures of Snow White. I swear to God, like 95% of the top videos on YouTube were all anti-Blake Lively, anti-Rachel Zegler, because most of the people who are doing this type of content are going to be either they skew to the right. Okay. They are skewing to the right, and they know now what is lucrative. They know which narrative to push that is going to be it's going to produce the most value for them. The whole astroturfing has become crazier than it used to be. It feels like they've added pushing regular content creators to comment on it to their repertoire. There's a YouTuber I enjoyed watching because he just did some regular artistic stuff, and I just unsubbed from him because he commented on Kayagate when he had literally never done anything about it. Yes, and that was the other thing, is like because what was overwhelmingly on the internet was Hassan Piker's an animal abuser. This one specific narrative that a lot of people who either, okay, here's the thing. There's a spectrum. There's people who intentionally know, and yet they push it anyway. And then there's ones who, it was the same thing with Depp versus Heard, where they're just picking up whatever they're consuming on their timeline. They're maybe not really looking into it that closely. They don't care, whatever. And it's whatever is the overwhelming narrative being pushed across their timeline that then they will adopt. Person whose opinion is whatever they see. Yes. Also, the fence sitter that does know better but gets scared when he feels any sort of heat. Yes, it's people thinking, okay, this is what my audience wants me to say. This is what everyone else is saying. It's trust, y'all. Trust. There are plenty of motherfuckers on YouTube, on Twitch, who they go wherever the winds are blowing. Okay? They go wherever the winds are blowing. And they make a determination. It's giving Cynthia Revo. They make the determination of whatever is the dominant side. Whatever is going to be the safest, surest bet for them to place. I would rather somebody just be like, I don't know anything about this. You don't have to say something. You don't. But when something is popping the fuck off, of course you're going to have people be like, whoa, what do you think about this? What do you think? Do you have any thoughts? It's like not everybody needs to give a take on everything, which I think we've forgotten. I think we have forgotten of this concept of you don't have to have and voice your opinion on everything that's popping off, especially if you know not of what you speak, and especially if you are just catering to what you think your audience wants you to say, or whatever you're seeing, whatever is the popular sentiment. I think it's hard for young people to not fall for that herd mentality, but for adult people with platforms, use your brain. Anyway, I know a lot of people aren't really paying attention to this anymore, and especially when it felt like just there were so many lawsuits and there was so much this and then that, and I just beg you, please, it's important to understand that for cases like this, if you take the attitude of, I think they're both bad, they both kind of seem shitty, what you're doing is siding with abusers. You are contributing to our culture where we still do not take victims seriously, where we still there is so much power, where men have so much power, and where victims of sexual misconduct are not taken seriously and are punished when they come forward with accusations. So this should remind you too that Blake Lively, ultimately, if you compared their standing as far as like celebrity status, Blake is a bigger celebrity than Justin Baldoni. Blake is also married to Ryan Reynolds, who is very famous. Them as a power couple in Hollywood. A lot of people looked at Justin Baldoni and went, he's a victim because of that. But what they're ignoring, What they're ignoring are the power dynamics that exist because Justin Baldoni is a man who's being accused of sexual harassment by a woman. And that still plays an important part. It's definitely not a both sides situation at all, but that's a lot of times what the attitude will be, especially with these celebrity cases where people kind of just hate. As much as we live in a celebrity worship culture, people also hate celebrities when it's stuff like this, where they'll be like, oh, both these people suck. Or like, oh, just rich people suing each other. Oh, these celebrities are all, who cares? Who cares? Just because there are sides to the story doesn't mean they all deserve equal weight. People are very stupid. Yeah, they are. And I talk about these types of things because I need people to understand that if this can happen to Blake Lively, a white, wealthy, famous, incredibly privileged woman, then think about what happens to people who are not Blake Lively. This happens every single day. Every single day. And also because if you are a person who, I don't know, maybe you're an asshole. Maybe you're an asshole. That doesn't mean that I think you should be sexually harassed at your workplace. And if that were to happen to you, I would say that is wrong. And nothing else matters aside from the fact that it is wrong and should not be allowed that you were sexually harassed at work. But what happens is if it's not Blake Lively, if it's like you or me and we're being threatened with a $250 million lawsuit, you know what we're probably going to do? We're probably going to drop it. We're probably going to be like, okay, I can't face this because the legal fees, and it doesn't matter if eventually the suit, I mean, it's important that the suit eventually gets dropped because there's no basis. There's, it's illegitimate, but it's that people can't afford to take this kind of stuff on legally. I just want to know how to argue this better. Well, that's why I told you, like, I think pointing to that meeting that they had, that is broken down in the New York Times report. I just think the New York Times report, I don't understand how you read that and go, Justin Baldoni's a victim. And then you can also point to other instances that demonstrate the type of person he is. Cause it's like, okay, we want to do this character. Let's do this character analysis. Okay. So there have been other instances where he's been sued for either, whatever, stealing scripts from people, from a person with cystic fibrosis, or being previously removed from other production sets. The best way to break this down is that Blake Lively was not suing Justin Baldoni because he sexually harassed her. She ended up having to sue him because of the subsequent retaliatory smear campaign. So it was not, oh, I'm going to sue this. I'm going to claim that he sexually harassed me and then sued him. It was, we had issues on set. We called a meeting. And then because Justin Baldoni worried about what would happen if this got out, what would happen to his reputation, Blake Lively is a big name. He hired a team, and that team then conducted a smear campaign, and it was very effective. And people started to turn against Blake Lively. Now, notably, members of the cast, author of the book, Colleen Hoover, people were standing by Blake Lively. And it was noticed too in the press for the movie, where it was like, why is Justin Baldoni by himself? Why is Justin Baldoni by himself? And then in comes the smear campaign, and it starts to mold the narrative into, oh, well, it's because, Justin Baldoni was being bullied, was a victim of Blake Live, blah, 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 blah. But I think this is something that people need to understand. She was not suing him initially for sexual harassment. Now, that is absolutely something that I'm saying, like, if that happens to you, you should, you deserve justice, right? You deserve for that, first of all, not to happen to you. But if it does, that the person who did that is held responsible. But it was because of the smear campaign that tarnished her reputation, that affected her business, her livelihood, no pun intended, and the public perception of both her and then also her husband. Tag PR was spearheading the smear campaign for Justin Baldoni. Guess who's the majority owner of the firm? Scooter Braun. Always at the scene of the crime. It's hard to tell what the truth is immediately. I tend to not believe most things online straight away, but generally whenever I see a female celebrity just being hated on for being a woman, aka some weak reasoning, I just think, oh, this again. And I hope, essentially, what I hope this does is people stop. People stop next time they start seeing a lot of stuff cross their timeline that's like, fuck this woman. And I hope they go, okay, wait a sec. We've been here before many times. I'm going to wait a second. I'm going to see where this is coming from.